Hello and welcome to First, your first place for all F1 related news, content and general tomfoolery. My name is Jed and I am joined, as always, by the lovely and elegant co-host, Ellie McVicker.
Hello.
How are we doing this week?
It's good to be back after a long week.
We did it. We actually recorded the second episode. Are you proud of us? We didn't just do one and
after
leave.
a lot of deliberating
and
postponing.
Ellie had come home from work and go, no, I'm too tired today. I can't do it today.
The joys of working life.
Yeah. Well, we had a race in Belgium. Thank God. After, if you heard us last week, we were talking about how there was a possibility that it could have been cancelled.
Yeah, this is true. But as we know, we didn't. Well, we had a little sprinkle of rain, but none that would cause a 2021. Yes, 2021 flashback for us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, we had the race, and this weekend it was the F1 sprint format, which, if you don't know, means that qualifying for the race is on Friday, so that sets the grid order for the main race. I'm explaining this really carefully because it's very stupidly complicated. I don't like it.
We have one free practice session, which is also on the Friday.
Yeah, so that's just the practice to allow them to get their setups right, and then on the Saturday they have the sprint qualifying early in the morning. Then they have the actual we have the sprint race. Yes. And then Sunday you have the actual
you have your race, which the qualifying was set all the way back on Friday.
So it's really confusing because you get a qualifying session in between a qualifying session that sets the race for Let's start with Friday.
Yeah.
Friday we had qualifying for the race.
Charles Leclerc pole.
There's not much more to say than that. That qualifying session was okay. It was fairly decent. Bit of a mix up, you know. There was Charles Leclerc only inherited pole.
Yes,
let's be honest. Max Verstappen got pole.
But there was that was the time that Max Verstappen just about got put out in
Q1.
Q2. No, it was Q2 because he was P10.
You're so right. He was.
Yes.
Max Verstappen. In qualifying, you have 3 qualifying sessions. I'm just saying this just in case we have my mum listening again. Thanks, Mum, for listening in the last episode. Love you. And in Q1, bottom 5 good drivers go out. In Q2, the bottom 5 drivers go out, and top 10 in the last qualifying session have their shootout. And Max Verstappen in Q2 was just through.
Yes, it was Pierre Gasly and someone else who could have.
It was by like 0.2 of a second, but it wasn't the rain, so it was drying up a bit, and both Gasly and
someone else could have knocked him out, but they just did not improve enough.
That was the session that in the final qualifying session, Stroll decided to take a bit of a gamble, didn't he?
Oh yes, and it didn't pay off. Yeah. But it was actually because of the rules of the sprint.
It was, yes.
He wanted to go on smooth tyres. What do you call them?
Slick tyres.
Slick, that's the word. Slick. Smooth tyres. Yeah, well, the wets and inters aren't very smooth.
You've got the bumpy tyres, and then you've got the smooth tyres.
Well, if he wanted to go on the slicks, then he had to go on mediums.
Yeah, because according to the rules of the...
Because they didn't declare a wet qualifying.
Yes, despite the fact it was one of the worst qualifying sessions in terms of rain pour in quite a while. It wasn't declared by the FIA as wet
because of some strategic move they were trying to do.
Yes, so this was for the qualifying for the shootout, wasn't it?
I'm not gonna lie, it's all blurred.
It's all blurred into one.
It's also Friday right now, so the race the qualifying for the race was a week ago.
It was a week ago. We really should record these earlier.
Yes,
we'll get better at it. Moving on.
Yes.
To the sprint itself. Ellie was at work.
Yes, I was.
She missed a little bit. So, I was sat here. The lights go out. Oscar Piastri.
In case you didn't know this, ladies and gentlemen, I love Oscar Piastri.
Ellie
has
Oscar
decided
Piastri that if Lewis Hamilton is to retire...
Yes, I will become Piastri's #1 fan.
Piastri obviously new to the grid this year.
Yes.
Australian...
Lovely character.
I think he's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, he's proved his pace already.
Which
he did. As on lap 1, a bit like Hungary in two years ago. Because it started behind the safety car. It
was a rolling start.
It was a rolling start. So the safety car finally peels off into the pits. Max Verstappen goes through, and Oscar Piastri goes into the pits.
What were you about to say?
I don't.
Pierre Gasly.
I was going to say Pierre Gasly. I don't know why.
No, wrong one. Wrong key.
Yeah. Oscar Piastri goes into the pits along with a bunch of other people. And
Verstappen
misses out. And because of that, he pitted 1 lap early. He went onto the inter tyres, sorry, we should explain. Because you have to start on the wet tyres during a safety car start.
Yeah.
But it was too dry by the time they started to be on the wet tyres anymore. So the intermediates are kind of a middle ground. So when it's raining, but not that heavily. Oscar Piastri went onto those a lap earlier, drove round faster than Max Verstappen drove round.
And came out ahead of him.
Ahead of Max
after
Verstappen.
Max Verstappen pitted. Yeah. And I watched this by the highlights. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my god, Oscar Piastri could win this race. And it got to like halfway through the highlights, because obviously they take out all the boring laps. So it got to halfway through, he was still leading. I was like, oh my goodness, Piastri's going to win the sprint race. And I remember texting Jed, and I was like, oh my god, Oscar Piastri.
You text me and you're like, oh my god, Oscar Piastri, he's going to win.
However, despite an amazing stint by Oscar Piastri, that RB19 was just a rocket ship as usual. So we seen Oscar Piastri overtaken, which was, although sad, P2 and still incredible.
P2 is incredible. Followed up by none other than Pierre Gasly.
Yes.
Was it Pierre Gasly?
No, it was Pierre Gasly.
Pierre Gasly, who also had an impressive sprint race.
Yeah. It's a shame it was a sprint race, otherwise.
Yeah, because Alpine really need all the help they can get right now. After both their team boss and
someone else has left.
Chief technical director, I want to say, both left before the halfway. So there's now a season break. We're now on a
summer break.
Summer break, and they left before the last race of before the summer break.
It's got to make you think, what is going on there?
What is going on at Alpine? Indeed.
Anyway, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. We need to stick to the sprint.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else to say about the sprint?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
All right. Okay. Go
Lewis Hamilton's penalty.
Oh.
Sergio Perez.
Oh, don't. Oh,
what
man.
A controversial little couple seconds there.
As you would say in the world of football, the game's gone soft. It was got the ball ref.
Maybe we can say the tyres have went soft. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I know.
Maybe. We used to have groove tyres. Game's gone soft. Got the ball ref. Lewis Hamilton had a bit of a tussle with Sergio Perez in the race. He went down the inside, was very much alongside Perez. They both drifted it out because they were in the wet, and Lewis ended up hitting the side of Sergio Perez's side pod, damaged it, which caused Sergio Perez to retire eventually. Although Lewis Hamilton stayed P4.
But then he got a penalty.
But then he got 5 seconds of penalty for causing a collision.
He ended up in P7 after the penalty.
Yeah.
It's just because it's basically their rules for the sprint race are also the rules for the actual race.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't really make sense having the same rules, because it's 75% shorter than an actual race.
Yeah, giving a 5 second penalty when the grid is already so close together because the race is so much shorter.
Not even that, is it drivers are obviously racing a lot differently because they know that they've not got the same time that they do.
That's an
so
interesting
they need to
point.
get overtaking done quicker. There's no pit stops, so they don't have that advantage either.
Yeah.
So I think the rules need to be thought out differently.
Yeah, I just don't think it was a penalty. The Sky F1 commentators, Martin Brundle, didn't think it was a penalty either, and I had to agree with him. I think it was a racing incident. I think it was very harsh. It's in the wet. If it was in the dry, totally different scenario, and Hamilton had driven into the side of him and dinged his side pod, sure, fine, I'd allow a penalty for that. But to have one in the wet like that is...
I think it was more safe to say that it was a racing incident, really.
Yeah, which usually means no penalty for either party.
Right.
Let's move on to the race, shall we? The big race, the big one that everyone's waiting for. Sunday. It was dry.
Yes, a disappointment to some people.
But to be fair, there was once a time where it rained for 20 years in Spa. At the
and by that, you see, when he said this to me, I thought he meant 20 years consecutively, as in every single day it rained for 20
Ellie
years.
Went, really? And it rained in Belgium for 20 years straight.
But then he said, no. What Jed means to say is it rained for 20 consecutive races in Belgium.
I'm just relaying the stat that I saw. Yes, it once rained. So to have a dry race was actually a bit of a relief because we knew we would get the full race.
Fresh air.
There wouldn't be any red flags unless something catastrophic happened. And that was it. Yeah.
So yeah. Drivers starting Max Verstappen in P5 because of his grid penalty for taking a new gearbox. Okay.
I think he just got bored of starting in P1.
Yeah.
And decided to turn up the difficulty a little bit.
Yeah, I think he should really just start from like.
You should just take a new engine each time.
P16 or something.
Yeah.
He used to try and get all of the...
Because it'd still be more entertaining watching him bike through the field, even if he was to still finish P1. I'd still
get through the pack.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. But let's go to the start.
Yes, Sergio Perez was... sorry. Get ahead of myself.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
Leclerc was in pole.
Mm-hmm.
Sergio Perez was in P2. And Lewis Hamilton was in P3.
Yes.
Don't know who was behind the rest of them. It all blurs.
It was blurry. There was a Sainz in there. There was a Piastri.
Yeah. Oh, I think Piastri was actually... No, you know what? I'm not even going to try.
We shouldn't even try.
Yeah. Anyway, first corner. Sainz and Piastri.
Yep.
Another controversial take on this race. People think that it was a 50-50 whose fault.
Yeah, so for people that didn't see it, going into the first corner at Belgium is a very, very sharp hairpin where you basically almost turn back on yourself. Sainz is on the outside. Piastri sees a space which is there, as it is the opening. It's just a straight the start of the race. Piastri's got a better launch. He sees a space. He's going to go into it. Sainz suddenly has no space on the outside because there's now a car there as everyone turns around the corner.
There's Lewis Hamilton, but however, there was he locked up, so he didn't really have anywhere to go. But there was a car, half a car length to Lewis Hamilton, so he wasn't exactly boxed in.
No, he could have. He could have funneled in behind Carlos Sainz, but what ended up happening is that there was a squeeze, and then one of Piastri's wheels hit the wall. The other one hit Sainz. They both ended up retiring, and that was that.
But Sainz, you're getting a bit ahead of yourself.
Sorry.
Sainz managed to go very far until Ferrari decided to eventually retire him.
It was a bit of a Ferrari move, that, because he was just falling down and down. Piastri pretty much retired immediately.
Yes.
Sainz was just falling down the grid.
For laps. It took them... How long did it take them to
took them a long time to be like...
Roughly? I have no idea.
I couldn't even say. But
between lap 20 and 40?
Yeah, I think it was more than halfway through the race.
The second half of the race.
Because, and you think at that point, when you see that damage and you know you're not going to get any points, you would just retire the car because you can save the engine, save the gearbox, and when in F1 you get a limited amount of engines and gearbox to run during a season...
You don't want to waste the mileage.
You don't want to waste the mileage. You want to keep your gearboxes and engines fresh. But obviously they decided that wasn't the decision to make. I don't know. I don't know if they were thinking that maybe if there was a red flag, they'd be able to retire. They'd be able to repair the car or something.
Who knows what goes on Ferrari's brain?
Ferrari
really.
is a mystery to me.
But yeah, Oscar Piastri retiring was very sad.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that.
After such a promising sprint race, yes, it was just heartbreaking to see him not even make it through the first lap.
Yeah, well, you know who else didn't really make it through the first lap, but not in the same way, was Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, I think it was by.
It was by the 1, 2, 3, fourth corner.
Fourth corner
that he was overtaken by Sergio Perez.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate to see.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc fans, are you okay?
Yes, that is a really good question.
Because you've had a rough season.
I would not be okay.
No. Yeah. The other thing, obviously, to talk about is that we ran a poll on Twitter. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you should go and follow us. I think we're just at @first_podcast. It's not Twitter now.
You made the Twitter?
It's not even Twitter now. It's X. Yeah, sorry. Follow us on X and be trendy and cool. On X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I ran a poll to say by which lap would Max Verstappen be in the lead of the race.
And it was between
I put first lap, first five,
or lap 10.
Lap 10.
Yes.
Unfortunately, everyone who voted in that poll, thank you all for voting in the poll, by the way. It was great for our interactions on Twitter. You were wrong, but only just, as Max Verstappen took into the lead on lap 17.
Yep. His own teammate.
Yeah. Sergio Perez was in front of him in the same car. And Max was having none of it and decided that he'd had enough of being in second and just decided to blast past him, and you never saw him again.
No, the coverage did not go back to him until he won the race at the end.
Yeah, he had a moment a little bit when we had a little bit of fake rain.
Oh, yeah.
Where he had a little bit of a wiggle going up Eau Rouge, which is a pretty much flat corner in the dry. And he almost lost the car, but he actually very well saved it. That was the most exciting thing that happened in his race. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next up, we've got McLaren.
Yeah.
Who, after such a promising last 2 races, it was really disappointing to see their race this week.
Yeah,
last week.
Well, we talked about Piastri.
Yes,
he retired.
But even Lando Norris just did not have the pace. He fell down the order so fast after the start. I think he managed to recover himself to correct me if I am wrong,
he did a
P7.
Yes, he did a really good last stint on those softs, because when the weird rain came out, which wasn't enough rain for it to go to intermediate tyres, people were bolting on new softs because obviously it gives you more grip because they're fresh tyres and they're warm out of the blankets and they're hot and they're sticky, so they'll still try and stick to the surface even if there's a little bit of rain on it, whereas an old pair of tyres is not going to do such a good job. And Norris did that and made up a ton of places in the pit stops because of it and finished P7. Yeah,
he managed a good recovery, but for McLaren, looking at the past 2 races, it's probably a disappointment to them.
Yeah, they will be disappointed.
Because especially if they want to catch up what they lost for the first majority of the season.
Yeah, because would you say that their goal now is Aston Martin? And
I think at the moment they need to look at Ferrari. Mm-hmm. But then after that, I think they could set their sights towards the Aston Martins, because as it looks, they're not on the pace that they were at the start of the year.
No, Aston Martin have had a rough couple of races recently. They just everyone else seems to have had upgrades, and Aston Martin, I think I heard there was a report of they put on an upgrade to the cars, and it's actually taken them back a step because it hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to, which is a shame. Let's talk about Hamilton then. You lead us away.
Hamilton pitted on the lap 40...
The second last lap.
42? Because there's 44 laps.
Yes.
So pitted on lap 42 for medium tyres.
Because he had
a very large... He had at least a pit stop time to Fernando Alonso. So he had plenty of time to pit, and he pitted onto the medium tyres so that he could try and set the fastest lap of the race and pinch 1 point from Max Verstappen.
Yep.
And not only he
Not only?
Why am I going blank?
Not only what?
Not only did he manage to go fastest, but I have nothing to say after that.
Oh, right. So it's just he went fastest.
Yes.
Yeah. He went fastest, everyone. Yeah, he did. Which is impressive, obviously, because he was on the medium tyre.
Yeah.
Not the fastest compounded tyre. And he managed to steal a point, which he'll feel good about himself because it's from Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
And we feel good about it because it's another point for Mercedes, which is obviously every point will count in their battle in the Constructors' Championship.
And especially his battle with Fernando Alonso to take third place from the championship standings.
Of course, yeah, that is the most interesting battle in the Constructors' Championship.
As you'll find out later with our Formula 1.5.
Yes. We're going to move on to my favourite segment. Formula 1.5.
Hell yeah.
Dun dun dun. We need a jingle. Brilliant. Before we get into Formula 1.5, my favourite segment of the show,
as of last week,
Matt and Tommy P1, we have some beef. Yes, I am starting internet beef in our second ever episode as a podcast. So, Ellie, why don't you tell them why I've got beef with Matt and Tommy at the P1 podcast?
Well, you see, I'm an avid P1 listener.
Yeah, she's a traitor.
I would greatly recommend them. Please go and listen to our podcast.
Say that.
And I was listening to them on the way to work, and I noticed that they did What If Red Bull were gone from the standings, and they did a whole episode on what the season would look like. So
the day after our podcast was posted.
That is not the day after.
Was it not?
No, it was a couple of days or something.
Oh yeah, so that gives them time to go, oh, we like that. And
of course, because that's exactly
yeah, so they definitely saw, I've decided they definitely saw our podcast, and they definitely stole the idea.
Because it was definitely not something
Formula
that's been
1.5
going
has definitely
TikTok.
not been going on around for like tens of years. So yeah, before we go, get stuff, Matt and Tommy.
I still love you guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, please, just retweet
Don't
something,
sue us,
or
please.
something. However, we also have accidentally caused a little bit of controversy.
Have we now?
I haven't told you this because I wanted to keep it for the podcast. Not really, but like kind of. Basically, by technicality,
Okay.
Formula 1.5 should not include Mercedes or Ferrari either.
Would you like to clarify why?
So, according to the Formula 1.5 rules, Mercedes and Ferrari are a top three constructor, so are not always counted in Formula 1.5. However, because this season they haven't won a race so far, some accounts that are doing Formula 1.5 are including them, and some accounts are not.
Okay.
We are doing one where they are being included.
Because Red Bull are the only ones that need to be
Red Bull
taken
are the only
out.
one that's been won a race. So, with all that being said, would you like to know the current standings of Formula 1.5 this
Well,
week?
I know the current standings.
Do you still know them?
Well, I know the first two.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, Charles Leclerc would have won the race with Lewis Hamilton in second, Fernando Alonso in third, George Russell in fourth, and Norris in fifth. Which means that Fernando Alonso still stands on top on 228 points, with Hamilton on 207.
Really?
Or 208. There's a bit of... I steal this from a TikTok account.
You should not say that.
But they steal it from another source. So I have no idea what the original source of this is. However, some people in the comments are being like, maybe he's on 208 because they don't know if they added the fastest lap or not. When we have more time to record this podcast next season, I am doing a Formula 1.5 myself so that I know that everything was right. Charles Leclerc would still be in third on 151, George Russell on 142, Sainz on 100 I can't see the profile pictures in the way. I think it's 138, and then Lando Norris. So the last point I have about the race is, now that we're at the mid-season break, I wanted to introduce you to a little stat that I found. A little statistic, if you will.
Oh, I do love a good statistic.
You do love a good statistic. Now, this is a statistic of drivers with the majority percentage of their team's points.
Okay.
I would like you to guess who you think has the highest percentage of highest percentage of their team's points. I will give you a clue. It's 2 drivers tied with 100%.
Okay. Number 1.
Yes.
Alex Albon.
Correct answer.
Number 2, however, that is tricky. Ooh. I'm really not sure. I don't know which teams have and haven't got points. I am going to say Alfa Romeo.
I think the driver.
I don't know who has points. I'm going to say Joe.
Incorrect.
Okay, I didn't
It's Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh, okay.
Because Daniel Ricciardo
makes
hasn't
sense.
scored any points yet. Yeah. Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda both have 100% of their team's points. Do you want to know who's next highest?
Yep.
Nico Hulkenberg.
You know what? He was actually one of the ones I was going to say.
Hulkenberg has 81% of the team's points.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but then I thought Magnussen had definitely scored a point.
Yeah. Although Nico Hulkenberg's been doing incredible this season. Also. Alonso 76% of the team's points. Norris 67%. Verstappen 62%. Ocon 61%. Hamilton 60%. And Bottas 56%.
Damn.
So every single team has already scored points this season.
Really?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
We've got a bit of diversity for once. I remember the days of when we'd have Marussia and Caterham and...
Do you remember the days? You say it like you're 70.
And back in my day, when I was watching F1,
Yes,
we had none of these bloody hybrid engines.
Not one of us started watching F1 when they were feckin' 7.
Yeah, okay, well that was me.
Well, it was on when I was 7. I just didn't watch it,
yeah,
man.
you just didn't watch it. My first ever F1 memory is the 2008 Brazil.
Really?
Have I ever told you that?
Probably.
Yeah, that's
You
my
see
first.
a lot of things too.
That's my first ever F1 memory. Is Lewis Hamilton winning the. I didn't understand what was going on. Anyway, moving on. So after looking at a beautiful F1 race weekend, let's have a wee look at the off-track action.
Hell yeah.
That's my dream. I don't know why I'm doing a dream noise.
Okay.
Anyway. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is I'm gonna ask you a question, Ellie. There have been rumours about a potential return to F1 for Sebastian Vettel.
Mm-hmm.
We know that in 2026,
Mm-hmm.
Audi are joining the grid.
Sebastian Vettel is coming back as a team boss and nothing else.
Is that you answering my questions already?
Can I
ask my question first, please? Can I ask my question first?
Yeah.
Thank you. Where would Sebastian Vettel go if he came back? And in what role?
I think I just answered your question already.
But you didn't say where.
Oh. Either. I don't know. I don't think he would become I genuinely don't think he would become a
driver.
principal.
Do you think he'd become a driver? Do you think he'd come back as a driver?
I can see it more than I can see a team principal.
Yeah.
I can maybe 30% possible.
Mm-hmm. Where?
Where?
What was the question?
Audi, because it's all German.
Okay, fair enough.
They're going to scout. You know who they're going to bring?
However,
No. Listen.
Okay, sorry.
I'm going to tell you who they're going to bring in.
Who are they going to bring in?
They're going to bring in Sebastian Vettel
I bet
and
you
Nico Rosberg.
Nico Rosberg. I would love Nico Rosberg back on the grid. Nico Rosberg, the man who beat Lewis Hamilton in equal machinery in 2016. And has never mentioned it ever since.
No.
He's very, very...
Did you know that?
No, I didn't. He's very modest about it.
Yeah. Speaking of Nico
Rosberg, my favourite blonde soul.
Yes, I love Nico Rosberg. He's really grown on me as his retirement.
Like a fungus.
Yes.
Yeah. Nico Rosberg was...
banned from McLaren's garage.
Why?
Because he's cursed, that's why. He's cursed.
So, for those of you that know in the football world, I explained this to Ellie. There is a thing called the Drake curse. This is Drake, very famous pop star and
singer,
hip hop. I don't listen to Drake. Is he hip hop? He's hip hop, right? Is he hip hop?
You sound like an old man now.
I sound like an
Stop
old man.
talking.
Okay. Drake, anyway, that guy, will often take photos with footballers as he is out and about in different football events and stuff like that. And almost every single time he takes a photo with that footballer, they will lose. Their team will lose the next day.
Well, that's interesting.
In the F1 world, we have started to have a similar thing called the Nico Rosberg curse.
Yes.
Nico Rosberg.
If you see Nico Rosberg outside your car and your garage, you should honestly just probably shoot him on sight.
Yeah. He takes selfies, uploads them to Instagram, and almost instantly the next day or the same day.
Whoever driver he has posted on his social media is doomed to fail.
Yeah.
It's happened with Verstappen last week in Hungary when Lewis Hamilton took pole. Yeah. It happened
with Hamilton
on
race day. Because he dropped to fifth.
So McLaren literally took action to put up a sign outside their garage saying no Nico Rosberg selfies allowed.
Yeah. They literally put up a sign of Nico Rosberg's face with a, crossed out, saying no Nico Rosberg selfies allowed at the garage.
We really wanted him to take a photo with the sign.
Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't there that weekend.
Was he not?
No, he wasn't.
Oh,
he did say it on Twitter and decide that he was going to go to the factory of McLaren and take a selfie there. God knows what would have happened if he'd done that.
To be fair, McLaren didn't have a very good weekend.
Nah, maybe he did take the selfie.
So even just the thought of the Nico Rosberg curse.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Moving on. Ellie.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to talk about is possibly one of the most... the last thing of off-track action that I want to talk about is possibly the most important thing that happened this entire weekend.
Okay.
Ted Kravitz.
Yes.
Absolute
beloved
love and hero. Did his usual walkabout and chat to people. And this time, he decided to chat to the man who waves the green flag to start a race.
Is it the green?
Yes, it's a green flag. So if you don't know, when all the cars line up on the grid, the medical car lines up at the back, and in front of the medical car, a person walks across with waving a green flag. This is so to see if any of the drivers are stalled, getting off the line, or if anyone's out of place, or there's an issue with any of the drivers and he waves the green flag, and I'll just say, everything's clear, we can start the race. Ted Kravitz decided this week to interview that man, and his name was Bernard.
Yes, Ted was very sad to see that it would not be waving the green flag in the sprint race because they had a rolling start.
Yeah.
So he physically said out loud, "Oh, no flag waving for Bernard."
Yeah.
Bernard.
Yeah, so we met Bernard. We had a little chat with Bernard.
Did we?
Well, Ted Kravitz and the rest of the, metaphorically, we've had a chat with Bernard.
Okay.
And yeah, he was. What? I like Bernard. Leave him alone.
You talked to Bernard, did you?
No, I didn't talk to Bernard. I meant we, as in like the F1 community, had a chat with Bernard through the means of Ted Kravitz. Mm-hmm. And Bernard, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, my friend,
we love you.
We love you. We hope you're
you.
doing very well. Moving on.
Swift.
The final thing we want to do this episode, giving it is the mid-season break. We have 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
3. We come back on the 25th of August.
Yes. Which, by the way, does not mean we will be going anywhere. We will still be uploading.
We will still try our damn hardest to bring out fresh and funky content next week.
Yes. What are we going to do next week, Ellie? Please?
Well, I don't want to jinx it. But the intention is to do a blast from the past and recap a very old race and just live in the past where there wasn't, well, I don't know what race we're going to choose, but hopefully there's not a Red Bull dominant unless we choose the 2012 era.
We choose 2013 season.
Then I don't know.
But we will be choosing a race from the past and we will be covering it in depth, just like the content you see normally, but just from a race from the past. We'll still have all the off-track action from around the time. I'm going to do some digging, do some research. It's going to be great. So join us next week for that. Don't forget. But before we go, me and Ellie have done a little bit of tier listing.
Yes.
Almost, if you will.
Our best and worst drivers of the first half of the season.
So we have our top 5 drivers of the first half of the season and our bottom 3 drivers of the first half of the season.
Mine's are in no particular order, by the way.
Did you not rank them 1 to 5?
No, I can't do that much.
Oh, okay.
I can't do that.
Well, do you want to go first then? And I'll
So yours is in order.
Mine is in order from who I thought was best.
Okay. Mine's is not in order.
Okay. In no particular order, Ellie.
Yes.
Who did you put down as your best 5 drivers of the season?
I did, in no particular order, again, just to make sure that people don't come at me. Okay. Verstappen, Hamilton, Alonso, Piastri, and I'm still really stuck on my 5th. I am just going to say Norris.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have made a grave mistake.
Oh no. Who have you forgotten to put in? Have you forgot to put Hamilton in?
I'm going to read you my top 5, Ellie.
Oh no, who's you forgot to put in?
At number 5.
So this is like 5th?
Yes.
Okay.
Nico Hulkenberg.
Okay.
I think Nico Hulkenberg has had a fantastic start to the season. At number 4. Alex Albon.
Fair. Okay, I didn't really realise we were doing it like this, but okay.
At number 3, Fernando Alonso.
Okay, he's forgotten to either put Hamilton or Verstappen up there, and whichever one he's chosen.
At number 2,
good.
Lewis Hamilton.
He's forgotten Verstappen, hasn't he? What have you done?
At number 1, Max Verstappen.
Oh!
I forgot Piastri.
Well, yeah.
That's quite bad.
It is bad.
That is bad. I now that you've said that, I would take out Hulkenberg and put Piastri in at 4th and bring Albon down 1 place. I still think Fernando Alonso's opening stint of races was good enough to keep him at 3rd, despite the lack of Aston Martin pace. Now, let's move on to your bottom 3 drivers.
See, I kind of had a brain blank, and I kind of forgot all the drivers.
Yeah, Ellie just forgot everyone who did
and
bad.
all the performances they've had this season.
Yeah.
So I've just went with my gut, okay, and the feeling I have around them.
Okay.
Well, no, not
I want
I
want a little bit of a reason for each one.
Okay, so we've got Perez because he is in the fastest car and he's failing to put it up there with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that's completely
which is just that is all I need to say.
Yeah, you really don't need to elaborate on that. 2
is, I don't know if I'm being too harsh for this one because I just couldn't think of anyone else to put in it. Well, I could think of someone else to put in it, but I didn't want to. Sargent.
Logan Sargent.
Because I think he has been decent, but there's been times where, like, was it last race that he just spun by himself?
Yeah, no, he did it in Hungary. He was not under that much pressure.
And, like, he's nowhere near the league of Albon. So I get it as rookie. I guess it's his rookie season. In my opinion, he's in my bottom 3.
Okay.
And lastly, I have Magnussen.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because compared to last season, I think he's just decided to take a holiday.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like, maybe he's actually not done that bad. Maybe it's just me, but I think that says enough. I think he's just forgettable. Like,
no, that's completely valid. It only surprised me because
you're gonna say some people, and then I'm going to be like,
yeah,
I
am. But it's okay. It's okay. I like that. I love that.
I know one person exactly who you're gonna say, and I don't think they did as bad as you do.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that Magnussen, in terms of Nico Hulkenberg, that's the wrong person. Nico Hulkenberg, I think that he's just not been on that level, nowhere near the level he was last year.
No, I think I 100% agree with you. Actually, yeah. I would have considered him.
Okay.
If I had thought more about that. My bottom 3. I have gone for as least worst. At number 3 is Sergio Perez.
Really?
Sergio Perez has been abysmal. Don't get me wrong. However, he has still won races
this is true.
Year.
Yeah.
He's been terrible recently, but I think considering the whole start of the year, I couldn't put him any lower than that only because he's won races and at times he's shown
Yeah, but I think it's
the other two drivers I put haven't shown any greatness at any time during this grid. This is going to sound really harsh, and I don't think you're going to like this one.
You're going to say, like, one of the Ferrari drivers, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
At number 2,
I have George Russell or something.
Valtteri Bottas.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. He's just been there. I was considering putting him in my bottom 3.
My reasoning for Valtteri Bottas is because he's somehow become more unremarkable than he was in his last couple of seasons at Mercedes. And
yeah,
he's now being, pretty much schooled by Guan Yu Zhou. Sure, there's a couple of, but
didn't you say that he had his team's majority points?
He does have his team's majority points. However, Guan Yu Zhou's had
just about equal.
Yeah, just about equal. It's 56. It's very, very close. They don't have a lot of points at Alfa Romeo, so it's very, very close. I just think he's been incredibly forgettable this season. I feel obviously the Alfa Romeo is not an incredibly quick car. However, I don't think he's going to stick around in the sport if he continues like that. I think this might be the end for Bottas. Which is sad, really, but I think it might be the end for Bottas.
Might be time.
He doesn't seem like he's got a drive.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't really feel he's got very much hunger to be.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's sad. My worst driver of the year.
Oh God!
Of the season so far is none other than Nick De Vries. Now,
I didn't include him because, well, he's going to rub salt in the wound.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I'm kicking a dead horse, given he's already gone. But Nick De Vries, for me, the reason I put him down there is because yes, that AlphaTauri is terrible. Yes, he didn't get enough time. Did he look like he was making any improvement from race to race? No. Did he look like he was actually getting worse as every race came about? A little bit. Because he seemed to be losing confidence and then just seemed to be getting actually progressively worse as time had gone on. It's a real shame. He's, Formula E world champion. He was a great driver in the junior series. But he's done. He will probably, I might eat my words here, but I highly doubt he will ever return to F1.
I don't think he will.
No. And on that incredibly
depressing
note,
that's all we have for this episode.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, watching.
That does conclude our no, it's not Hungary. Our Belgian Grand Prix recap.
Yeah. What should they do now, Ellie? What should everyone go and do
Everyone should go and show us some support everywhere on all of our platforms, and especially, even if you can't be bothered doing that, if you're listening to this on Spotify or any of the podcast sites, just give us a cheeky wee share. That would just really help us. Yeah,
share, 5 stars, give us anything.
Whatever you can be bothered
to do. Follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, Jed's quite good at his little
I make funny ha-has during the race tweets.
It's not tweets, but
not tweets anymore, posts. I don't know what they're called.
X's.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening. If you're still listening, I hope we still have an audience in our second week. And tune in next week for our blast from the past.
Yes. Goodbye.
Goodbye.